Imagine, if you will, that your city starts requiring a free dessert with the purchase of every single dinner. The first thing that'll happen is that the price of a dinner goes up to include the price of the dessert as well. The second thing that'll happen is that people will start either eating desserts that they would not have paid for otherwise, or they won't eat the dessert, leaving food to go to waste and still paying for the dessert through the increased price of a dinner. Imagine if this happened all across America, if almost every city had a requirement to provide free dessert. Sure, there might be some food-conscious cities like San Francisco or New York that would actually ban free desserts in order to combat the rising epidemic of obesity, diabetes, and heart disease. But most Americans would come to expect to have a free dessert with every single meal. And if cities tried to remove those requirements, there would be a massive public outcry. This scenario is kind of outlandish, but it's a good analogy by Donald Shoup in his 2005 work, The High Cost of Free Parking, that illustrates why minimum parking requirements in the United States simply do not make sense. My name is Jonah Cromer. I am a transportation choice advocate, and I'm here to talk about minimum parking requirements and why they're toxic and why they should be removed. The minimum parking requirement started out in the 1940s when the automobile was the future and it would be sustainable forever, but by the 1990s, before my lifetime, the professional literature came to the consensus that minimum parking requirements actually harm cities a lot. Since I'm in Stillwater right now, I figured I'd show you the Stillwater City ordinances, especially the section that talks about minimum parking requirements. It's 10 pages. Most of those are a really big table that shows, with pseudo-scientific terms, exactly how much parking you need for 84 different land use types, from airport to warehouse. They sound like this. For a bingo parlor, you need one space for 3 seats based on design capacity, or 1 per 100 square feet of total area, whichever is greater. These sound really precise, but in actuality, it means that you'll have parking lots that are never full, like this Walmart parking lot that I'm in right now. I'm standing in a parking space that is occupied, I'd say maybe 2% of the time, and I've never seen this parking lot more than half full. And this is not just a Stillwater, Oklahoma problem. Even during holiday rush hours, less than 85% of parking at shopping centers in San Jose, California, where there's a lot more people and a lot more demand for transportation, 85% or less of all parking lots are being utilized at shopping centers there. This was in a study in San Jose, California by Adam Smith. That means that we're spending a lot of money and a lot of space on something that doesn't even get used fully. The cost of a parking space is not cheap. It was found by Strong Towns in an article in 2018 to be about $5,000 to $10,000 per space, with structured parking like garages or underground garages to cost 5 to 10 times as much. And who's paying for that? Well, just like the price of a dinner gets increased to cover a free dessert, the prices of everything get increased to cover the cost of free parking. So here at the Walmart, where I am right now, they raise the cost of their goods in order to cover these parking spaces and make money. And it's not only commercial prices that go up, but also housing prices. A 2018 paper by Lehe found that minimum parking requirements raise rents. That's simply bad for everyone. Housing affordability is no longer a thing that we can truly achieve if we have to follow these onerous regulations. Plus, that's a lot of space being taken up. There's a concept called opportunity cost, where if you build one thing, you're not building another thing on the same piece of land. This is the Walmart parking lot that I'm standing in right now. It covers about 8 acres or 2.5 city blocks. This is the same parking lot overlaid onto library lawn of Oklahoma State. This is very pleasant to be in. This is not. And imagine if this space that was utilized on parking that nobody ever uses was developed into something else. That's what Gabbe et al. Did in 2021, when they found that if parking regulations had been loosened in Silicon Valley, California in 2000, in the time since then, there would be 37% more jobs and millions more in the local economy. So how do we reduce the harm caused by onerous parking requirements? Simply get rid of them. If the excess amount of parking is not required, it won't be built. because parking costs money, and developers will only build as many parking spaces as are profitable. And removing requirements works. Hess and Rayler found in 2021 that 47% of new development in Buffalo after 2017, when the parking regulations were removed, built less parking than was previously legal, meaning that the minimum parking requirements were not set at the market parking demand. And another study by Sahoni and Lee in 2023 found that when minimum parking requirements were removed in Champaign, Illinois, a college town, in some zones, the amount of parking provided in those zones were 48% of the previous requirement instead of 108% before that requirement was lifted, meaning that too much parking was being built before. And when you think about it, it should make sense to not mandate a certain amount of parking, because we don't mandate a certain amount of sidewalk connectivity for every single building. We don't mandate a certain amount of bus paths or bus routes or bike paths to be connected to every single building and funded by the developer. So why do we do this for parking? And a future without minimum parking requirements would have more businesses being able to start up or redevelop space without having to worry about meeting the new parking requirements for that use. We have to really stop the bleeding. More parking is being built than is needed, and this is harming our cities. There's limited money and space. We don't need to force developers to waste both on parking that isn't going used. Plus, here in Stillwater, if Norman, Oklahoma can remove minimum parking requirements, you can too. Get into contact with your local city council member. As for me, I've got to walk across this massive parking lot to get to Walmart.